Good afternoon, friends. Yvonne Stewart here with you in our study, Why Should I Give? And we are actually in part 14 today, which is really part 3 of reason number 4, why should we give, which is it is an opportunity to become God's partner. Last time we saw how ministers of the gospel are to receive double honor from their congregations. Now let's look how they are supposed to lead their congregations in giving. When it comes to giving in the church leaders should be the first in line to partner with the Lord. Let's look at an account from Numbers 7, chapter 7, verse 1. On the day Moses set up the tabernacle, he anointed it and set it apart as holy. He also anointed and set apart all its furnishings and the altar with its utensils. Then the leaders of Israel, the tribal leaders who had registered the troops, came and brought their offerings. Together they brought 6 large wagons and 12 oxen. There was a wagon for every 2 leaders and an ox for each leader. They presented these to the Lord in front of the tabernacle. Then the Lord said to Moses, receive the gifts and use the oxen and wagons for transporting the tabernacle. Distribute them among the Levites according to the work they have to do. So Moses took the wagons and oxen and presented them to the Levites. He gave 2 wagons and 4 oxen to the Gershonite division for their work. He gave 4 wagons and 8 oxen to the Merarite division for their work, etc. The leaders also presented dedication gifts to the altar at the time it was anointed. They each placed their gifts before the altar. The Lord said to Moses, let one leader bring his gift each day for the dedication of the altar. On the first day, Nahshon, leader of the tribe of Judah, presented his offering. His offering consisted of a silver platter weighing 3 1/4 pounds and a silver basin weighing 1 3/4 pounds, as measured by the weight of the sanctuary shekel. These were both filled with grain offerings of choice flour moistened with olive oil. He also brought a gold container weighing 4 ounces, which was filled with incense. He brought a young bull, a ram, and a 1-year-old male lamb for burnt offering and a male goat for a sin offering. For a peace offering, he brought 2 bulls, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 1-year-old male lambs. This was the offering brought by Nahshon. And so then the rest of the chapter, it repeats all of this with each leader from the 12 tribes bringing all of these offerings. So the point that I want to make is that the leaders gave and the offering was used for the work that God needed done. It was not an offering without a purpose. In fact, there were 2 separate offerings collected specifically from the leaders. One of the offerings was used to carry the pieces of the portable tabernacle. And then the other one was used to simply glorify God in dedicating his tabernacle. We can also be God's partner because we belong to him. A natural outflow of our belonging to God is to bring him an offering. Notice the men took some of the offerings home. God usually splits things with you receiving the far greater percentage. Also notice that in this case, the offering was to remind the Lord that his people belong to him, rather than reminding the people that they belong to the Lord. Both parties in the partnership need reminders from time to time. We see this again in Numbers chapter 31, verse 48. Then all the generals and captains came to Moses and said, we, your servants, have accounted for all the men who went out to battle under our command. Not one of us is missing. So we are presenting the items of gold we captured as an offering to the Lord from our share of the plunder, armbands, bracelets, rings, earrings, and necklaces. This will purify our lives before the Lord and make us right with him. So Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from all the military commanders, all kinds of jewelry and crafted objects. In all, the gold that the generals and captains presented as a gift to the Lord weighed about 420 pounds. All the fighting men had taken some of the plunder for themselves. So Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gifts from the generals and captains and brought the gold to the temple as a reminder to the Lord that the people of Israel belonged to him. Another aspect of partnership is possession. When God gives you something, you have to receive it or possess it. Possession often requires work. God does the hard part, and he always does his part. You have to do your part too. Your part means kicking out enemies, plowing up land, planting seed, watering seed, taking out weeds, and then harvesting. Even after the harvesting, there is still a lot of work to do. You have to bind the sheaves, shake the sheaves, dry the grain, grind it up, sell what you can't use, knead dough, bake the dough. Finally, you get to eat the good of the land. A land flowing with milk and honey does not mean that there are rivers of the stuff flowing through the ground. It means there's plenty of bees and cattle. Now go possess them. Take dominion over them and produce things that you can use from them. As we can see an example of the expectation of possession when Israel finally enters their own long-awaited promised land in Joshua 18. In verse 1, it says, now that the land was under Israelite control, the entire community of Israel gathered at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle. But there remained 7 tribes who had not yet been allotted their grants of land. Then Joshua asked them, how long are you going to wait before taking possession of the remaining land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you? Select 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out to explore the land and map it out. They will then return to me with a written report of their proposed divisions of their new homeland. Let them divide the land into 7 sections. And when you record the 7 divisions of the land and bring them to me, I will cast sacred lots in the presence of the Lord to assign land to each tribe. When God gives you something, he does not just want it to sit there looking pretty. He wants you to get the full benefit out of it, to use it. At this point, we must ask ourselves, am I ready to start giving? 1 Chronicles 29 verse 1 says, David the king addressed the congregation. My son Solomon was singled out and chosen by God to do this. But he's young and untested, and the work is huge. This is not just a place for people to meet each other, but a house for God to meet us. I've done my best to get everything together for the building of this house for my God. All the materials necessary: gold, silver, bronze, iron, lumber, precious and vari-colored stones, and building stones. Vast stockpiles. Furthermore, because my heart is in this, in addition to and beyond what I have gathered, I am turning over my personal fortune of gold and silver for making this place of worship for my God. 113 tons of gold, 7,000 talents, or 214 tons of silver for covering the walls of the buildings, and for the gold and silver work by craftsmen and artisans. And now, how about you? Who among you is ready and willing to join in the giving? When God decides to do a project, he does it to the hilt or to the maximum extent or degree, completely and fully. God isn't cheap, and he doesn't mind asking you to sacrifice. King David, as the leader over God's people, led in giving. And he gave hundreds of millions of dollars worth of supplies for the building of God's temple. He wanted to be God's partner. And then He asked all the people to join him in giving as well. It's also important to remember that Jesus takes our giving personally. He views us as partners. Matthew and Mark record Jesus saying some interesting things. In Matthew 10:40, he says, "We are intimately linked in this harvest work. This is a large work I've called you into, but don't be overwhelmed by it. It's best to start small. Give a cup of cool water to someone who is thirsty, for instance. The smallest act of giving or receiving makes you a true apprentice. You won't lose out on a thing." And Mark 9:39, he says, "Don't stop him. No one can use my name to do something good and powerful and in the next breath cut me down. If he's not an enemy, he is an ally. Why, anyone by just giving you a cup of water in my name is on our side. Count on it that God will notice." So don't wait on anyone or anything. Become God's partner and start giving today. Well, that's all for today. I hope you receive some revelation from God about how to become his partner through your giving. The verses that I read or refer to in this message are written in the description of this video. Make sure you check them out and do your own study. And then join me again right back here on Monday at 12 Central. Have a blessed week.